This week's lesson is intended to help you think about your talents and strengths and how you can apply them in college. While everyone was briefly exposed to Strengths Quest and your individual top 5 talent themes during Welcome Week, we'd like to take you through a brief review of what you hopefully learned. Then, we'll help you connect ways you can develop and use your talents in college. Before viewing the rest of the PowerPoint presentation, you should know what your top 5 talent themes are. You should also have read the long descriptions of your top 5 talent themes as well. These are both located in the Moodle site. First, I want you to think of something that you have never been particularly good at. Some examples you could think of are playing basketball, doing math problems, giving a public speech, or even playing ping pong. Now, picture someone who is really good at that activity. For example, a player on your school's varsity basketball team, or your older sister who's a graduate student in math. Someone like that. If you were to face off with the other person in a competition of that activity, how are you going to do? Probably not very well, right? Now let's say you spend a year of your life practicing and studying and taking lessons, really devoting your time to getting better at that activity. 1 year later, it's time for a rematch. How do you think you'll do? It's likely you'll do better, but you still might not win. Do you think that was a good investment of your time? The point of this example is that you will get a better return on your investment if you spend your time going from good to great in a strength area than it would be to spend time going from bad to average in a weakness area. That's the main idea or philosophy behind Strengths Quest. Basically, the key takeaway is that by learning about your strengths and developing your strengths, and then following and applying your strengths, can lead to a happier you and more successful outcomes. If you apply that to the college experience, it can give you a way to be intentional with what you choose to focus on, what activities you participate in, and what outcomes you can create during your time at the University of Minnesota. You can visualize 3 main learning and teaching styles in college. One is remediation. This is where you pick something that you aren't very good at and work at it and try to get better at it. The second is survival of the fittest. This is where you'll be taught a subject matter and then you'll be tested on it. Either you'll pass or you won't. If you pass, you can move on to more advanced subjects. Then you repeat the process with the next level of the subject. The final one is focusing on strengths. This is where you find areas that you are good at, focus on turning those talents into areas of excellence, and then finding ways to leverage those specific talent areas and apply them to other parts of your academic and college life. You'll probably encounter all 3 of these teaching and learning styles at different times during your college experience. Please think of a specific time where you've experienced each of the 3 approaches. For the example you thought of, think of how you felt in that environment. For the rest of the PowerPoint, we will focus on teaching you more about the strengths approach and how you can use it in your college experience. The goal is for you to find opportunities to use the focusing on your strengths method whenever you can during your college time. That might be the subjects you choose to major or minor in, which specific classes you choose to take, or the activities you choose to participate in. First, let's talk about talents. StrengthsFinder defines a talent as a naturally recurring pattern of thought, feeling, or behavior that can be productively applied. A talent is something that is innate about you and cannot be changed. You cannot pick and choose your talents, although you can choose how you use and develop them in your life. StrengthsFinder has established 34 talent themes, and the inventory that you took over the summer identified the top 5 talent themes for you. These are areas that are an important part of who you are, or are areas where you have the potential to be naturally good. People actually use all of these talent areas to some degree, but everyone has a top 5 that seems to be most you. Some of your top 5 talents might seem really obvious to you. Others might be more hidden. Sometimes it's helpful to ask someone who is close to you, like a parent or a good friend, about how they see you use your top 5 talent themes. Family and friends will often have insight into how you've demonstrated those in the past. When you learned what your top 5 talent themes were in the Strengths Quest exercise, you may have had an aha moment where you thought, this is totally me. For some of the other talents, nothing was immediately obvious, but after some thought, it seemed like it did fit you after all. And finally, you may think that some of your top 5 talent themes don't seem to fit you at all right now. One thing that might help you understand your top 5 talents is to know that people can use their talents in different ways. For example, one person might demonstrate their achiever talent by always being busy and doing lots of things all the time. Another person might show their achiever talent not by doing a million different things, but by making sure that they perfectly complete every single task they take on. Also, you may use different talents in different areas of your life. Some people demonstrate their talents most obviously in their work or school life. For other people, they demonstrate them in their personal life or in their hobbies. How you use your talents will be unique to you. But talent alone isn't enough. You can easily think of stories of people who have wasted their talents or not lived up to their potential. To really make the most of it, you have to consciously develop your talent areas to turn them into strengths. A strength is the ability to consistently provide near-perfect performance in a specific activity. The key to building a strength is to identify your dominant talents, then complement them by acquiring knowledge and skills pertinent to the activity. A talent has to be combined with effort and skill and knowledge in order to become a strength. For example, during the London Olympics over the summer, you may have watched some of the swimming or gymnastics events. The competitors were naturally talented athletes, but they also gained knowledge by having their coaches teach them how to perform. They built skills by learning the correct athletic movements. And finally, they practiced and practiced and practiced until everything seemed effortless, even though it wasn't. In the same way that a musician has to take lessons and practice in order to become good, you need to find ways to use and develop your talents to turn them into strengths. Here are some examples of how people can develop their talents. Someone with the analytical talent may have enjoyed doing puzzle games as a child. While in one sense they were just doing something that they were good at and enjoyed, in another sense they were also practicing their analytical skills and preparing to tackle even more difficult problems in the future. Another example is someone with the winning others over, or woo talent, who enjoys striking up conversations with others. In one sense, they are just doing something that comes natural to them, but they are also working on building and refining their interpersonal communication ability. The main thing to remember is that talent is just the beginning. You need talent, plus skills, plus effort, plus knowledge to equal a strength. While you don't need to put forth an Olympic level of effort, there are things that you can do consciously to build upon your talents. Think about some ways that you have developed your talent areas in the past. And also, what are some ways you can develop your talent areas now that you are in college? Just because a person is aware of his or her top talents doesn't mean that's enough to effectively develop them. As we just pointed out, it takes effort to develop talents into strengths. Talents and strengths can also be used productively and unproductively. When we are intentional and use our talents in a healthy, productive way, these talents can be seen as strengths. In other words, that healthy and productive use is like the sunny side of our talents. The opposite is also true. Our talents can also have an unproductive or shadow side. To demonstrate this, think of one of your talents. Can you think of a time that you used it in a not? It might have been a time when you overused it, or when someone approaching the situation from a completely different viewpoint really misunderstood your approach or perspective. Here are a couple of examples to get you thinking about the sunny side and the shadow side of your talents. Someone with an achiever talent theme might use it productively to work really hard, but if not used productively, the person might be perceived as thinking work is more important than their relationships with other people, or being a workaholic. Or someone with the achiever talent can find it hard to say no to other people and are always in danger of taking on more projects than they can realistically accomplish. Another example could be someone with the harmony talent theme. They could use it productively to serve as a middleman or go-between and help people reach consensus and understanding on contentious issues. Used unproductively, that same person might use harmony to go along with other people even if they don't agree with them in order to avoid conflict. They never get to go to the restaurant they want to go to because they don't want to disagree with what their friends are doing. As a final example, someone with the talent theme of deliberative might be great at thoroughly thinking through an issue before deciding on an action, so that they are always well prepared. But the shadow side would be when the person takes so long to decide that they procrastinate and a decision is never made. Once you are aware of how you use your talents, you can find ways to minimize unproductive uses, the shadow side, and emphasize and focus on the productive uses, the sunny side. Now, we will explore some of the ways that you can use and develop your talents and strengths in college. Please think about some ways that you could use your talents in your first year at the University of Minnesota. Thinking back to the scenarios we gave you at the beginning of the presentation, what was the activity that you identified that wasn't easy for you? What if you needed to work on that for an entire academic year? For example, if you didn't like public speaking, you'd have multiple classes each semester where public speaking would be part of your grade, and you would also be participating in student groups where you have to speak publicly all the time, and you would have no choice to get out of it. What would that experience be like? Probably not very fun, and possibly terrifying. But you do have a choice. A degree from the College of Liberal Arts is a flexible degree that gives you choices in your courses and your outside of class activities. Obviously, there are degree and major requirements that you need to do, and you will want to pick classes that are challenging. but that still gives you a lot of choice and control over your first year of college and your college experience. Will you use your freshman year to try to get better at what you aren't good at, or will you try to capitalize on what you are good at? The decision is up to you. Here are some of the ways that you can use your talents and strengths in college. One obvious way that you can follow your strengths is by choosing a major or minor in a subject area that you're good at. You can also choose courses, either within your major if it's a flexible major, or as electives or liberal education requirements that you enjoy and are interested in. If you think we're just telling you to always take easy courses, that's definitely not the case. We do want you to take on new and challenging subjects while you're at the University of Minnesota. But remember that talent alone isn't enough. You need to actively work at and develop your talent areas to turn. The academic decisions that you will make are one of the key avenues for you to accomplish this. You can also use the focus on strengths approach within a class when you are doing the homework and assignments. You can't control the assignment, but you can control how you use your talents and strengths when doing homework and studying. For example, based upon what your individual strengths are, you may like studying by yourself, or you may do better if you form a study group and work with others. Or it may be some combination of the two. You may find that you need to do one task at a time and see it through to completion before doing something else. Or you may study better if you do work on each subject for a short time and have variety. The point is to find a study method that lets you apply your talents and strengths to the task at hand. And finally, you'll find lots of different opportunities to use and apply your strengths in student groups and extracurricular activities. One way to use the strengths approach is to apply your strengths and talents in small groups. Find out what your other group members' strengths are, and then leverage that in your projects. Have you ever been in a group where no one takes on a leadership role and the group flounders? Or where everyone tries to be in charge, creating conflict? Where time in the group is a lot of fun, but it's just social time? Knowing what your own strengths are, as well as the strengths of the other members of the group, can help you create a team that can really get things done, and is also a positive experience for all of its members. Strengths can be a way to capitalize on what each member is good at, which can positively impact the whole team. When you meet in your small groups later on this week, you'll have a chance to talk about how your strengths may play out in group or team projects. To prepare for that meeting, think about group activities that you have found challenging in the past. Which groups did you find motivating and productive? To end this presentation, I want to review some of the key concepts of the strengths approach. Remember that everyone has talent areas that they are naturally good at. What your specific talents are and how you use them will be unique to you. You cannot change your talents, but you can control how to use them and develop them. Knowing what your talent areas are is just the beginning. You need to consciously find ways to work at your talents to develop them into strengths. Once you have developed a talent area into a strength, then you need to use it in a productive fashion. Keep your strengths on the sunny side and not the shadow side. Finally, you need to find ways to apply your strengths and leverage your strengths in order to accomplish your goals. We hope that you will find ways to apply your strengths to your first year experiences in the College of Liberal Arts.